Let's now begin another program of questions and answers. Some of them we have already answered by mail, and here to this program we will be only answering those that have to do with more general interests. This person has several different health issues, and she doesn't seem to receive any results or improvements on her medical treatments. And she has just had a dream, and on this dream she was all covered with thorns, and someone was removing these thorns from her body. And she then felt a great relief in herself after that dream. Well, the treatments that you were looking for were not useful because what you had was a spiritual illness and not a physical one. And that is the reason why you couldn't receive any help from the physical medicine. And your dream explains that it was a spiritual matter because in the dreams, the thorns from your body were being removed. In such a symbolical dream, the thorns are representing a denial by your personality. Your personality is denying herself to follow your soul. The body represents the personality, and you were refusing, in your human level, you were refusing to follow the will of your own soul. And so you were spiritually taken care of. Someone removed these symbolical thorns that no X-ray could ever have seen. You were spiritually operated. And another person is asking, if we are using the words the end of the times, and this person is asking if everything is going to end. No, we are now entering the end of a cycle in this world. The world is finishing a cycle, and now another cycle will begin. A cycle of more consciousness for this humanity, the humanity that will remain here. And it must also be a cycle of more consciousness for the planetary logos. The logos is a Greek word that we use to call the planet's consciousness, because the planet also has a consciousness. We have it, and the planet also has it. And so this new cycle is a cycle of greater evolution, both for the consciousness of the planet as also to ours. And the same person is also asking, when the first cycle of the planetary rescue operation begins, will the others already be coming? Because this person has as very certain that the operation of rescue has already begun in a certain level. Well, and this person is asking, will the next cycles of the rescue operation, will they already begin? Yes. When the first cycle finishes, the next one will begin until the whole rescue is finished with all the kingdoms of nature that inhabit this planet. Because the rescue operation is not only exclusive for the human kingdom, but also for the other kingdoms of nature who also have in essence, a way of expressing their consciousnesses. And so this operation of rescue has to do with everything that is alive on this planet. And so it goes on by phases. We haven't yet reached the phase of humanity as a whole perceiving that we're going through the operation of rescue, that those who have to be rescued are already being so. But on the following phases of this operation, humanity will become gradually more conscious of what is going on. And here, another person. This person would like to to build an altar in her own home, and she would like to know what things she could put in her altar in order for it to be truly a place of prayer for herself. Well, you must have something that you respect, that you venerate, that you adore, the spiritual entities that you know and that you revere. And so you must put in this altar a symbol that might represent the spiritual entities. There are portraits, images, and you should choose the ones that correspond to your greater devotion and put them in your altar, because then you will have the correct and adequate place for you to pray. And what is the difference between a visionary and a medium? Well, what we call a visionary or a seer is someone who has the inner vision developed. And this is possible when a certain gland that we have here between the eyebrows, that is called the pituitary gland, when it becomes active. So when this gland becomes active, we have a true visionary. But a medium is serving as an apparatus, as an instrument, so that forces of any kind might manifest themselves through him. And so both a visionary, the seer, the one who has his gland developed, as the medium, who is a person who may be a channel for a force to manifest itself, both of them always have a pathway of evolution. It doesn't, even a visionary who is good and can see many things still has a path to walk on and things to develop. Because some visionaries see well, but they cannot interpret the things that they see. The medium, in general terms, the medium sometimes is channeling a force that he doesn't know where it is coming from, although there are certain mediums who are actually very conscious of what they're doing and what they're receiving. But the mediums in general are not very sure about the things that they are channeling, and that could be dangerous because the person could create karma with the things that they're manifesting, and also dangerous for those who are watching it. And so in both cases, the people should perfect themselves, both the visionary and the medium. And you know that in this path of perfection, there are no boundaries, no limits. And so we're never ready. Who could say that he's ready? No one here on earth could say that we're ready. We're all in the path of perfection, especially a visionary or a medium, who are people that have great responsibility for the things that they do. Here someone has been receiving a certain kind of influence, and this person thinks that this influence has to do with the planets and with astrology. If that exists, yes, it does exist. We must be grateful for the help that we can receive from a planetary entity or from a star. We have to be grateful for that, but we shouldn't be very greedy about it. We shouldn't be wanting to know many things about from which constellation it is coming from, because all this is mental energy. So if you feel that you're being helped by a certain planet or being helped by a certain entity, you should be thankful but not investigate a lot, because then your mind would enter the subject and you could have a very wrong idea about the whole thing. You should deal with this with simplicity, and then your soul will be the one to tell you when the influence is good or not so good. There are certain things inside the occult and interior life that to which it would suffice for us to have the intention of having things clear, but not to investigate too much, because it is always the mind who investigates. And the mind could deal with this investigation in a wrong way. So you should just be thankful for the help you receive and try to feel with your heart whether it's positive or not, but not complicate yourself too much, because that couldn't result as a positive thing. But as you have been receiving these influences at night, you should try to carefully prepare yourself to go to sleep. You go to sleep before the time so you can have time to prepare yourself. You should offer your sleep so that it might be instructive for you, and fall asleep in a very calm way. And do not be worried about receiving help or not, because these things we will find out in an intuitive way or in your heart. Here this person wants to know if when we make a request to a hierarchy, and as humanity in general is not aware of its big necessity, if the hierarchy is this person wants to know if the hierarchy is taking into consideration the amount of instruction that each person has when this person prays in comparison to the rest of humanity. No, what the hierarchy sees is your degree of sincerity. You may have a lot of instruction, but no sincerity. And the hierarchy could see in someone who has no instruction a person who is more honest, more truthful. And this is what matters to the hierarchy. It's not a matter of degree of instruction, but yes, it is a matter of sincerity, honesty, and correct intention. Correct intention means you having the intention of learning, but without the ambition. You having the intention of learning, and the more you learn, the better it will be for you to serve the other people, but not because you have the ambition of knowing more. You want to be better and know more things in order to become more useful, and not to feel better. This is a very subtle thing, but it would be good for you to observe if you're taking your path in a serious way, if you're dealing with your path in a serious way. And another person here is asking what is the elemental kingdom? Well, people who want to know about the elemental kingdom should observe all the kingdoms of nature and not only the elemental kingdom. So I suggest that you go to the esoteric glossary on the page 120, and then you will have a whole list of what are each elemental and what they do, and the descriptions of all the kingdoms of nature in the glossary. And this will be better than me responding now here in this lecture. You should just go to the glossary, look for the word kingdoms, and read about all the kingdoms. It's just a few pages, and you will have everything you need. But it's important that we might have a general idea about what the elemental kingdom is, because this kingdom is very connected with the creation and with the ideas of the creation. And so when the elemental kingdom creates, it is creating inside the plan of the creation. The elemental kingdom cannot be mistaken as we can. The elemental kingdom is never mistaken. So if the elemental kingdom has to create a fetus in the mother's womb, it will do it exactly as it is predicted. It always does its work in a correct way. But then it will be good for you to look it up in the glossary, the esoteric glossary, because it seems to me that you have a true interest on this subject. Another person is asking, which is the role of humanity when it's about helping the energetic balance of the planet, and what contribution can each one of us give in such a moment when we're lacking so much balance? Well, first of all, you should care for your own inner balance. Don't try to balance the world, because you're not capable of doing that. None of us is capable of doing that, and not even all of us together is going to do it. So you should care for your own personal balance, and then after you have cared for your own balance, you should not contribute for the general unbalance. Do not contribute for this life that you see around you and that is all mistaken and unbalanced. You should also schedule a moment in your day to care for your personal alignment. So I will repeat it. It's a very important question. I will repeat it. First of all, take care of your own personal balance. Second, you should not contribute for the general imbalance. When you see something out of place, do not contribute for that to keep on existing. And then you should schedule a moment in your day, even if it's a short while, for you to pay attention to your own state, for you to align yourself and readjust this balance that you have been trying to create. And this same person is also asking, what is the meaning of the chrism? Because she has been seen in the apparitions, and in certain moments we have baptisms and we also have the chrism, the unction. In the baptism, we are living a moment of rebirth. When you're baptized, you are being reborn. You're receiving an opportunity of being born again to a new phase of your life. This is very important. This baptism is so important that after it, the person receives the anointment, which is a ritual. Of course, we understand that the people who are acting that moment are priests, or a person who has the capacity of acting as a priest. During this chrism, this anointment, we are strengthening what happened in the baptism, because you know that the sacraments are all connected among each other. And so after the baptism, which is a kind of renewal and rebirth, a new opportunity to live a new life, after it comes the anointment, which is the confirmation of the baptism. And there's another sacrament which we call the communion with the Eucharist. After you've gone through the first two sacraments, you should acquire the habit of taking the communion, because in the communion you receive the maintenance of what you received in the baptism and on the anointment, because the communion also has other purposes that we could not even imagine. How broad is this sacrament that we call communion simply. But the communion, in this line of thought in which you're making your question, the communion is a way of you periodically keeping or maintaining that which you received in the other sacraments. Here this person is asking us why the suffering is the major mean for us to acquire knowledge here on this planet. Wouldn't there be another way? Of course, there could be many other ways, because when you accept the situations, and when you offer yourself to transform that situation, then you will learn through the knowledge, because then you receive the knowledge, because the universe is wise and it will send knowledge to you, and you will be learning through that knowledge. But when you refuse to accept the situations that come to you, when you react, when you act in a rebel way, then you are not following the line of knowledge or of the instruction, but you will be walking on the line of suffering. And those who know the history of the earth tell us that humanity has chosen the free will, and humanity has chosen the experience, And as humanity has chosen this, and this was not predicted, this wasn't what the plan had predicted for humanity, but as humanity has chosen it, it was forced to enter the path of suffering. And nowadays, this planet is a school of suffering to the greatest part of its inhabitants. And to just a few people, it's a school of knowledge. But this has to do with the fact of people having accepted one path or the other. And this humanity, as it has accepted the free will, it has entered the path of suffering. Because whenever we use the free will, there is a very great chance of you choosing the wrong path. But we were the ones who chose to have this experience. And this is the reason why we say that this is a school of suffering. But it's not that the suffering is the only path. Suffering is for the majority of the people. It's a way for the people to reach the knowledge. And the other way, is for you to reach knowledge by conviction or because you've chosen to do so. Here this person has been having a lot of difficulties to pray. She knows many forms of prayer, many prayers, but she still doesn't feel strong enough to pray. And after that experience, she tried to pray in silence only and felt a little better, but she acknowledges the importance of the spoken prayers. And she's in conflict because she doesn't know whether she should use formal prayers that could help her, or if she should just pray in silence. The important thing is not the form that your prayer has. It's not important whether it's informal or formal. The important thing would be your intention or the devotion that you put in your prayers. This is the important fact. You being sure that you are turning your attention to a superior level. And the way that you choose to do so will fit you if you have the intention of doing it correctly and seriously. Another person is asking how Jesus, being a cosmic entity, how he could feel in his body all the wounds that he received as if he was just a human being. Well, he as a being, he wasn't anymore in the point of feeling all those pains as a being, as a consciousness, but he chose to assume all these pains in order to liberate, in a certain way, liberate the world and humanity from things that we do not know. Because when the incarnation of Jesus happened, humanity was about to end. This is a story that is not told directly, but yes, there are people who know about it, and one day all of us will know about it. But Jesus assumed to carry the planet's pain. Because if you imagine, for example, the flagellation of Jesus, no physical body would resist such pain. And so that shows us that his physical body was much beyond a normal physical body, because any one of us would have disincarnated in the moment of the scourging of Jesus, because the scourging wasn't described completely in the books. And those who know the works of certain authors who have channeled information about the Passion of Jesus, people who have read it know that the scourging of Jesus trespassed all the levels of human resistance, but he chose to do it. And for that reason, it is not that as he was a cosmic entity, he shouldn't feel any pain. He chose to follow that path, and he felt a pain that no other human being could be able to bear. This is a very important detail. This person had a dream that was so beautiful and so pleasant, filled with beautiful landscapes, things of nature, very special. It was a perfect dream. And this person was so thankful and felt so much reverence that she's now asking, what did she receive to have such a good dream? She feels that she should never have received such a beautiful dream. She felt in that dream she was in front of beauty itself, the beauty of nature, the beauty of everything, and she feels that she didn't deserve it. She is used to having other kinds of dreams. There are some dreams that come to elevate us, to raise us up. And so these dreams are organized in our inner planes, and they come from our soul. And so it's the soul who organizes these dreams in order to elevate us, and also so that we might get into contact, get in touch with the harmony and with the beauty. Because in our life awake, in our life here on the surface of the earth, it would be very difficult for us to be in front of beauty or to know beauty or harmony. And so there are some dreams that come to elevate us. And there are moments in which our inner world needs an experience with the beauty. And here on the surface of the earth, it would be impossible for the experience to happen. And so the soul creates this dream on which, in the dream, the person will be in front of the beauty and the harmony. This is a sign that you needed it. Be thankful because you were truly needing it. But another person is asking, what is the occult meaning of the rain? A rain may be a symbol of a blessing. sometimes we're doing something and it begins to rain, and depending on the kind of rain, that works as a blessing. That is blessing and confirming what is happening. But when it's a destructive rain or a strong rain that begins to break things apart, then it's not a blessing, but it's a purification. And so a rain could be either blessing us or just purifying us.
Uma pessoa está perguntando se 85% da humanidade
A person is asking us
não está
if 85% of humanity is not in the moment to be rescued. This person must have heard it in an apparition. How can the hierarchy find the ones who are, yes, in the point of being rescued? Well, the spiritual entities do not see us as we do. The spiritual entities see in each one of us all of humanity. And so, by dealing with us, the spiritual entity is dealing with humanity as a whole. The entity sees in each one of us the whole of humanity. And so the hierarchy is not accomplishing a personal work with each one of us. The hierarchy is working with all of humanity in each one of us. And so the entity is seeing us as a monad or as a spirit, and not seen as just as a person. And the monads in their level, the monads do not feel separated from the others. And so all the monads, all of our essences are in constant communication between each other. And so it's a completely different point of view from the one that we have. The point of view of the spiritual entities have nothing to do with our human point of view. We are representing humanity, and it's all of humanity that is being worked on inside each one of us. And this person dreamt that her family was around a fireplace, and this person wishes to know what is the meaning of this dream because she doesn't have a fireplace in her house. Well, the fireplace is a symbol of warmth, the warmth of the heart, because what is inside the fireplace is the plant kingdom that is burning as a service to humanity. And so this fireplace represents the heat or the warmth of the heart. And if your family is sitting around it, then it means that your family needs a lot of love from the heart, a lot of true love. As you have had this dream, your mind is a mind that has the possibility of sending you symbolical dreams, then you should receive this kind of telegram in a dream. Then you should try to give love to your family, love from the heart, because this is what they were seeking around the fireplace. And here we have a person who says that she is very interested in subjects of the spiritual life, and she wishes to know how we can acquire complete control of our physical body and complete consciousness of everything. Well, first of all, you will approach your spirit by degrees. You must have the goal, the intention of reaching a complete notion of your spirit. You should have this goal present with you and be patient that this will one day happen. This will happen by phases, by cycles, but it will happen sooner or quicker when this goal is your priority in life. If you have other priorities in your life, then it won't happen so fast. You will have to disincarnate many times. You will have to go back to the superior planes many more times in order to have contact with your spirit. But if this contact is the priority in your life, then the process will happen much faster than it will happen with the other people. But you obtain complete control over all the functions of the physical body. This is connected with you being connected with your inner self, with your soul, or with your monad, because the complete control of your physical body can only come from the inner world. You can, yes, take care of your physical body and keep it in a good way. Have respect for your own physical body, things that the majority of the people do not have. You see the way that they treat their bodies. And so first of all, you have to dedicate yourself to taking care of your physical body. But to have control over it can only come from a superior level, the level of your soul or of your monad, which are the levels that work when your physical body is being created. Your physical body is created and formed by the devas and by the elementals. But it's also created by vibrations and by impulses that come from a very high level of your own consciousness. And so this is something that depends on how you are taking care of your inner life. And I repeat, the cares for your physical body will not allow you to have control over its functions, because this control can only come from above, from the very levels that have created it. This person here wishes to know how she could develop her service. Well, you should organize your work, but the service that happens during the time that you are working, this will come from your inner levels. And so you cannot know how you are going to serve. You have the control over your actions. You have the control over your work. But the service is an energy that comes from the soul. Service, the energy of service, does not come from your ego or from your personality. The energy of service does not come from the world. Service comes to the work that you are doing and for the benefit of humanity, and in a completely selfless way. It's in the measure that you don't have any personal interest over the things that you're doing. You're only doing it out of good, for the general good. It's not when you want to serve. When you want to serve, you go and do good things according to your own conception of good. But the energy of service will come from your soul. It's your soul that puts the energy of service in your work. And the service is something that is always serving. Our work does not only work. Sometimes we work a lot and our work is useless for the superior life. But when you're serving, it's always good for something in the universe. The service is something that enters into your action of work, brought by the energy of your soul or of your spirit. And this person here is asking if the use of alcoholic beverages could interrupt, delay, or stop the gift of intuition. Well, yes, we are beings who, in the evolutionary scale, should have become much more intuitive than we are, because after having developed our mental abilities, because we are a mental race, this race to which we belong is a mental race. Our next step as a race would be for us to become intuitive. And the difference is that your mind can be very clear, your mind can be a very good one, or a very strong one, but it doesn't have the capacity of knowing by itself what your spirit wants from you. There's no mind who could ever have that knowledge. And so the mind is just a mental matter. It's a body that we have, and this body cannot know by itself what the spirit wants to do, or what the creation wants from us, or what our inner self wants from us. The mind cannot know that. And so we need to use the mind, so that with our mind and with the strength of our mind, we might reach another level of knowledge. The mind has to cooperate with this process. The mind has to help you get in touch with this level. And the next step will be the intuition. And the difference is that your mind can be very well ordered even, but it can be completely mistaken. But the intuition is never mistaken. The intuition is the reflection of a superior will. And so what we have to become is intuitive people. And for that, and in order to do that, we should see our mind as only a body that we have, and that is very important for a certain cycle of our evolution. The mind helps you leave your emotional body behind, your emotions behind. It's the mind that convinces you to leave the emotions and look for another level of consciousness. But the alcohol, when you drink it, the alcohol and the drugs in general, when you use them, they will, yes, delay the intuitive activity. The intuitive activity is very subtle. The intuition is much more subtle than your thoughts. Imagine your purest thought. The intuition is much more subtle than your best thought. And so the intuition can be stopped or transformed or delayed by influences like the influence of alcohol. And so you will have your intuitions in the measure that you put no obstacles to it. This person has bear witness to many of her friends who are young people having the syndrome of panic. And how can she help all those people? Well, if we are following a path that is not the path that the spirit or that the soul wanted from us, then the soul will slowly go away, and the spirit or the soul will try not to participate in what we're doing. And as our inner nuclei go away from us in order not to mix themselves with the negative activities that we are doing, you begin to feel insecure inside. And if that evolves, it will end up as this that we call the panic syndrome. You can only panic or you can only feel insecure when you don't feel that your soul is with you. In order for you to panic completely is because your soul is not with you that much. It hasn't cut the thread, because if the soul had cut the thread, you wouldn't be alive. But she is far from you. And then you panic because there is a part of you that knows that you would need all of your nuclei integrated. And when we follow a path that is completely different from what you should be doing, then the soul goes away from you a little, and depending on the distance that it goes away from you, you can panic. But this person is asking, how can we help the people who are in panic? Well, you try to listen to the person and explain to her gradually these things. And if this person has a life essence inside of her, when you begin to explain these things, then something will wake up inside of her. But then you should pay attention and see case by case how far away from the person the soul is. And then you can try to help the person liberating herself from this by explaining these things. And if the person is interested on these subjects, she will benefit from the instruction. You should have faith. Another person says that we talk a lot about the monad and the spirit, and that she had never heard of the concept of monad before, and she wants to know what the monad is. Well, we are alive in 7 different levels of consciousness. The levels of consciousness that we inhabit are 7. But the normal human person lives in the physical, in the astral, emotional level, and on the mental level, and doesn't go beyond that. The majority of the people live in the physical, in the emotional, and on the mental levels. After we learn, after many incarnations, after we learn what we had to learn in these 3 levels, we begin to reach other levels, because we have 7. And after the mental level comes the intuitive level. After the intuitive level comes the spiritual level. And so the normal people in general, the people who do not try to work upon themselves in a spiritual way, they live only in the 3 first levels. But those who begin to work over themselves and are interested about the other levels of consciousness begin to enter into the 4th level, which is the intuitive level. And from the intuitive, they are taken to the spiritual level, which is the 5th level. And so the intuition and the spiritual level are only for those who want to leave these 3 first levels, basic levels, and those who want to evolve. And they will enter the contact with the spiritual level. But beyond the spiritual level, beyond the 5th level, there are still 2 levels for us to reach: the monadic level and the divine level. The monad is that which the creation emanated. That is the monad. The creation emanated a monad. And the monad is the one who begins to have an experience on earth. The monad creates the soul, and then the soul creates the bodies and rules over the bodies. And so we talk a lot about the monad, always, whenever we can, whenever there are people wanting to listen about it, because the monad is our real self. you see, the physical, the emotional, the mental bodies can be dissolved and ended. They can be disintegrated at any time. But the monad is that which appeared from the creation, and so the monad is our true self. We are our monad. And so the monad inhabits the sixth level of consciousness, and the monad that is completely awake, and the monad having complete influence over our life, then the monad would still have to go up to the divine level, which is the seventh, which is completely impossible for us to understand, incomprehensible. And as our monad is our only level that is real and indestructible, the monad never ends. It's immortal. This is the reason why we talk about the monad, because if we turn our attention to the monad, then we will be turning our attention to our true self, our true being, and that which inside of us can never end. The monad has its evolution towards the highest levels and not to the levels below her, unless she has chosen it. The monad can also choose the negative level, but we're not talking about them. We're talking about the positive monads. A person wants to know why, during the apparitions, at a certain moment, she begins to feel cold. It's a cold that she can barely stand. This feeling of cold comes from your mind that doesn't want you to stay in the apparition. So there is a part of your mind that doesn't want you to be in the apparition, because this part of yourself, this part of your mind, which is a negative part of your mind, doesn't want you to be in the apparition, doesn't want you to stay in the apparition, because the apparition is what will liberate you from that very negative part of your mind, and the mind knows it better than you, and so it sends you cold. It sends you something for you to feel uncomfortable. This comes from the negative part of your mind. But your mind also has the positive side. The positive side of your mind allowed you to go to the apparition. If you were only up for the negative side of your mind to decide, you would have stayed home watching television. But the positive side of your mind influenced you, and you can count on it. And it's the good side of your mind that is in contact with your superior levels of consciousness, that it's the part of you that obeys the superior levels. And so when you feel this cold, you should connect yourself with your good intentions and not with the cold that you're feeling. Do not confirm the cold that you feel, because this cold is a side of you that is reacting. You shouldn't confirm this. You put a sweater on and forget about it, and stick to the side of your mind that suggested you to go to the apparition, the positive side of you. And then slowly you will find a balance between these two sides of your mind. It's not that this cold or this mental attitude that you have is going to disappear from one moment to the other, but the energy of the apparition itself, which is here to heal us from all the evil things, the energy of the apparition will help this process to evolve. But you, in your intimate conviction, should choose which side to follow, because you have the two sides in your mind. As the cold is already bothering you, it's a sign that you can already count in your positive side, but don't believe that you're going to destroy the bad side of your mind. You should just deal with it with love and understanding, because everything that is negative, in the end, when the universe finally resolves itself, everything will become good. Nothing will stay aside from the universe. And so all these evil forces one day will all be the forces of the good. Because the universe has no other place to put them. And so everything that is bad, everything that is evil, tends to become good one day. And so we must know in our current evolutionary stage that in which the forces of good and of evil are very present, you should learn how to deal with it. And this is very good for your consciousness. You will strengthen yourself a lot by that experience.
And
here this person says that she definitely cannot say the prayers that she wishes to say, but that she wishes to become a person who prays more. And how can she do that? Well, you don't have to do any formal prayers. Have you tried to talk to God? Have you tried to have a conversation with your own superior levels? What do you have in your life that you consider more elevated? Something that doesn't belong to this earth. Is it God? Do you believe in God? Do you believe in a certain saint or in a certain positive entity? Then, if you do believe in it, then you should have a conversation with them. Talk to God as if you were talking to someone here on earth. Talk to the superior and positive entity. Talk to those towards whom you have devotion. There are people who do this. There are people who take this path and they talk to God, talking to this inner world, exposing themselves, confessing themselves, asking for help, asking questions. And they occupy more time with this than they would by praying the rosary. There are people who forget about the time and stay in this conversation and stay in this inner dialogue. You should try this out and you'll see the results. Here this person found out that Saint Joseph and Saint Germain were reincarnations of Antoine. And this person has devotion towards these three manifestations of Antoine. Devotion towards Saint Joseph, Saint Germain, and Antoine. And this person would like to know if she should attune and communicate with the three forms. But if he is only one, how can she deal with the situation? Well, you see, Antoine is an entity that belongs to the planetary hierarchy, and he doesn't incarnate anymore. And so Antoine has no physical form to appear to you, although he could create a physical form and appear to you. But his past bodies that he wore, for example, Saint Joseph and Saint Germain and others, because it seems that he had other incarnations, all these bodies weren't dissolved because they were very strong and purified bodies, and the universe has preserved these bodies. And so you can meet with the body of Saint Joseph or the body of Saint Germain. Or you could meet a light that might represent that which Antoine has to show you as his physical presence. And so you will be dealing with the three of them, and you will be dealing with the same one, because you're only dealing with the bodies that he used when he incarnated. And so there's no problem. Leave your mind in peace. If you want to pray for Antoine, pray for Antoine. If you want to pray for Saint Joseph, pray. If you want to pray for Saint Germain, then do so. You will be praying for the same entity in different aspects that he still maintains, because the universe has all of this registered. And by decision of Antuak himself,
esses registros
these
podem
registers
se movimentar, podem
can
falar,
manifest
podem
themselves and move
transmitir
around,
coisas
and they
para
can
vocês.
transmit things to
Ele
you.
dispõe de
He
todos
can
os
use
corpos que ele
all
já
of the
teve.
bodies that
Ele
he
dispõe
has
disso.
already had. He
Usa
has them
muito
at his
São José
disposition,
e usa
and he
muito
uses a lot Saint Germain and Saint Joseph
porque são bem
because
conhecidos.
they
Bem
are very
conhecidos.
well known.
E aqui uma pessoa está no limite
This person here is
estar em casa dela, na casa da família.
is
Não é compreendida e
feeling very bad. She's in her limits to keep on living with her family at home. It's a situation that is becoming unbearable for her. She cannot stand to remain in this situation. Well, you should do your best so that when you are there, you should feel and you should so that you could vibrate in a higher frequency than the situation that is going on in your family. If you still have to live there, if your soul keeps you there in your family in such conditions, then you should change your way of thinking. You say here that you are that your energies are being sucked from you by your family and that you feel very bad. Well, you should be there to serve them and put yourself in a higher position and feel like you're there just to serve them. And by what she describes, it's a long description of what happens. This person is thinking that she's wasting her energy. When you have already done when you have already done your share of the process in the best way possible, maybe this is what you have to do. You have to do what you have to do in a natural way. No matter, it doesn't matter if they want it or if they don't want it, if they're sucking your energy or not. You should just do what you have to do and consider yourself in a higher place, in a higher vibration. Do everything that you have to do to God. Offer everything to God, and this is what you have to do. But to make them accept what you do, or make them accept you, or to transform them, this you can do. We cannot change anyone. It's only our monad, our spirit, who can transform each one of us. And so you should put yourself in a higher place and be there just to serve them and change completely your own point of view, and you may even be surprised, because if you put your attention to a higher level and you're there only to serve the people of your family in a selfless way, it doesn't mean that you're going to be cold or that you're not going to consider them enough. It only means that you will be aiming other things, that you will be aiming the service towards those poor souls. Change your way of thinking, change your way of seeing things, and then you will be in a higher position, though you are there in that position. This action of having your energies being taken away from you will go up to a certain point until you learn how to defend yourself from this. And we cannot choose the place where we have to serve. If you have to serve in your family, you have to serve in your family and just consider yourself in a higher place. And you can choose the place to serve. Very well. I think we can schedule another meeting to April the 20th. It seems to me that this will be a good date. We will be confirming this date very soon in the website, and I believe that there will not be any modifications. And we are open to your questions. Some of them we will be answering by mail and others here live in this program. Thank you very much, and we will see each other on the 20th of April, if God wants it. Thank you very much.